All right.
That's a long, awkward silence, my dude.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding.
Yep.
It's kind of waiting for Treble to open up because
Okay.
he's the one.
All right. Hold on. Everybody is here. We're ready to go. Everybody got their character sheets open?
Character sheets open. Coca-Cola filled up. I'm good to go.
Holy crap! Look at Raz over here writing. Look at this. Look at this handwriting. That is the literal. That's the best handwriting I've seen of anybody with this tool.
There's literally a text tool.
Hey, hang on, I need to get in character. That says hello, everyone.
All right. So when we last left off, you guys got done with the first chapter of the game. You are now in the Feywild. You have gone into a domain of delight called Prismere. That has. Oh, by the way, that was a one-way portal. In case you didn't catch that.
I don't suspect that we will be coming back for dinner.
You don't suspect it. No, probably not. All right, so you guys have arrived in Hither, and you stand at the edge of a raised and broken causeway under a hazy twilight sky. The causeway, which is built from pale stones that glow faintly from within, towers over the surrounding landscape, but large sections of it have crumbled away. The parts that remain are separated by large gaps where portions have collapsed. A fog-shrouded swamp spreads out below you in all directions, and up from its murk wafts the smell of rotting plants, and rising from the swamp is the music of nature, a discordant symphony of croaking frogs and singing birds. Welcome, and it's sideways. Sorry, but welcome to Hither. And you guys are currently over here on the Queensway.
That's great. All right, remember last week you put it on the table and it was all squishy weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got used to that. Now this just looks stretched out.
Oh, I mean, it looks great to me.
Like, one of the things that I mentioned before is like if we had weeks and weeks to do this, I would run this as a hex crawl, but we don't, so we're just going to speed run our way through, as I keep saying. So you guys are standing on the Queensway. What do?
What landmarks can we see?
You can't really see anything. There is basically fog out. You're really high up, and there's a low thing of fog. I will say that you could probably see the top of this tower, and maybe in the distance you can. And if you look over this way, you can see the barest hint of a castle in the fog.
And if I remember right, last session we saw the balloon crash into the top of the tower.
Yes.
Right.
So whoever has had the highest passive perception saw a balloon crash, and I will read the text for that again, if you just to remind everybody. In the distant sky, you spot a great balloon made of patchwork material. It spins out of control as though it was punctured, causing the wicker basket that hangs from it to swing wildly. The balloon plunges out of sight, disappearing into the fog, approximately a mile away. You can see the little balloon on the map.
Is there a way to get down from the road?
There is several different ways. It is not a difficult climb down.
Okay.
Can I just say something real quick?
Sure, go ahead.
Because I like you guys are all talking about the balloon that I think you can see the balloon on the screen. But what's got my rapt attention is the sea serpent looking thing with moose antlers up here.
Well, yeah, but I'm assuming we can't
they're
see that
adorable.
from here.
I know. I'm just.
A wonderful detail, by the way. I do
I love
like. I didn't notice that until you pointed it out, and
I love it. I love everything about it.
He's just happy to be there.
It looks like he's got a whole moose head, actually.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Look, he's looking a little Bullwinkle.
So you guys are currently the Queensway is about 20 feet wide and about 100 feet off the ground. There are handholds and footholds carved into each pillar leading down, and if you like leading down to like these mushrooms that you can see here, and it's just like it's an easy climb down. It doesn't even require a check.
Would you say it's a shortcut to mushrooms?
I don't actually get that reference.
Okay, I understand. That's fine. So, yeah, Mrs. Fitzbiggins is going to declare that they need to help whoever was in that balloon that just crashed, and then immediately start climbing down the wrong side of the Queensway.
Leonardo will correct Mrs. Fitzbiggin. The other side is closer, actually.
I grumble, that's my line, but then I start climbing down the correct direction.
Yeah.
So it takes about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. Like I said, it's a pretty leisurely climb. It's not difficult unless you want to get down quicker, in which case you do have to make a check. But, like, there is no, like, nothing pressing you currently to make the climb any more dangerous than it has to be at this time, at this juncture. So when you get to the bottom of the Queensway here, whoever is last, who's last?
Probably me, I would expect.
Mrs. Fitzbiggins, as
Sure.
you finish the climb, a large crane, previously hidden in the fog, emerges and takes flight. Scares the crap out of you.
Okay.
The giant crane is like it flies off and is gone, and
I don't know
After-
why I automatically assumed it was like a construction crane, but I had the weirdest image in my head.
like a construction crane just swings around through the fog and then it's gone.
I thought it was going to scoop up Mrs. Fitzbiggin.
As the giant crane flies off, you start to hear something in the distance. So sticky mud is squelching beneath your feet. Tangled mangroves grow out of the pools of rippling water around you, half hidden by the thick fog, and purple mushrooms cling to rotten logs and stumps scattered throughout the marsh. Crickets that glow like fireflies chirp serenely before they're snatched out of the air by the tongues of hungry frogs. Coming from one direction are several voices joined in a marching song. The singing grows louder and louder as 6 bipedal rabbits wearing clothing emerge from the fog. 2 of them tug at the reins of a giant snail, and the others carry clubs and slings. And I'm going to say this song. I'm not going to sing it because I do not have rhythm and I cannot sing.
Coward.
But they are singing a song. And this is what you hear. With sticks and stones we'll break your nose, we'll beat you blind and steal your clothes, but none among us can compare to one wildly swift and stand-up hare. Scarf that's glorious, thief notorious, his deeds are truly meritorious. With wink and a grin, he'll show his cunning, a flash of his scarf, he'll take off running. Quick as a bolt, his long scarf trailing, gasping, grasping, you'll end up flailing. You'll pout, you'll moan, you'll huff, you'll sneer, thanks to Agdon Longscarf, brigand prince of Prismere. And then as they're singing this song, 4 of these obviously brigands have their weapons drawn, and 2 of them are like browbeating this giant snail that they seem to be using as a pack animal to kind of follow them. The snail seems very hostile towards the 2 that are mistreating it. And after a moment, one of the brigands approaches you. They do not immediately. They're brandishing their weapons, but they don't seem like they're going to be attacking you. Anyway, one of the rabbits walks forward, introduces herself as Jebek, and she looks you square in the eye and says, "This is a robbery. If you resist, we will beat you black and blue."
I'm afraid I already have plenty of those colors on me, sir, ma'am.
She looks at you and says, I demand that you each surrender the feeling of delight that you remember from when you were giving the best gift you ever received. That is the price for entrance into Prismere, or excuse me, into Hither. And then she has this gourd in her hands, and she opens it up, and she looks at you all expectantly.
I'm going to lean forward on my staff and tell them that it's not nice to rob people, and if they insist on doing so, that we're going to have to teach them a very valuable lesson.
A very valuable lesson, huh?
I tell them that learning is the most valuable thing there is, and that you should wake up every morning expecting to learn one new thing every day. And I don't think they've learned anything today, and I'm happy to teach them.
Well, if you do not give me what I ask for, then we shall give you a sound beating.
Does it look like my companions have my back?
I don't know. Do your companions?
Don't appreciate being robbed, regardless of what the robbers are seeking.
Leonardo's memories are generally pretty good. He'd be reluctant to give those up, especially if this is like the start of a trend.
It's like going to prison. Your first day in Prismere, you got to make sure you pick a fight.
All right, we have to establish the pecking order.
Right.
I need a charisma intimidation check from all of you, please.
Oh. I am
All of us, huh?
not good at these. Well, not... Oh, the dice are in the wrong spot. Treble.
Right, isn't that weird? Oh, come on! Oh, that's good.
No, the dice are in the right spot. The map is just whoppy jank.
Turned incorrectly.
I have a 9.
Okay.
I have 19.
What you
I
got,
feel like
McDohl?
I shouldn't.
What you got,
20.
McDohl?
Does an 8 do anything?
Okay. 8, 9, 19, and what?
23.
All right. That is a group pass. So,
You see Turvum crosses his arms. Is like, do I look like somebody who's full of, what was it? What were you asking for again?
they were asking for the feeling of delight that you remember from when you were giving the best gift you ever received. And
That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Giving the best gift I ever received. I don't re-gift. I accept everything, happily, no matter how bad, ugly that sweater looks.
None of us look at Leonardo when he says that.
Leonardo is going to take his paintbrush and kind of like trace the outline of an image in the air, and then he's going to scribble it out. And whoever he's talking to is going to feel a little weird about this. He's going to say, "I suppose we could give this up, but memories are such a fleeting thing."
well, anyway, as Mrs. Fitzbiggin she leans on her staff and she kind of I don't know that I would classify it as a subtle threat. You didn't outright say you were going to beat them up. As she's subtly sitting there threatening them with this incredibly crazily dressed warlock on the side, and she's got dwarf and a very martial dwarf and a very martial human looming over her from behind. Jebek pulls the gourd back, and then she seems cowed. And she immediately turns around and whistles, and they all retreat into the swamp.
You see? They learned something new.
So you are currently
I
at...
think I learned something new.
Yeah, do we barter in feelings and emotions here?
I congratulate Turvum on successfully turning the robbers away using the strengths of his words and his barrel-shaped chest. I'm assuming
dwarves
he's
are just-
barrel-shaped
Thank you.
because he's a dwarf.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think the chest is barrel shaped, just as so much as the whole dwarf.
The
whole
dwarf
barrel.
is barrel-shaped.
Yeah.
All right. So,
If those are the most successful robbers that we see, I don't think we'll have any problems here.
you guys, is your intention as a group to go to investigate the direction that the balloon?
Balloon crashed. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's the top priority right now.
Okay.
Although it may pay to remember the name that they were singing of.
It's Agdon Longscarf. If you want, that's him right here.
The Brigand Prince of Prismere.
Yep. So, okay. We don't need...
Eventually, we've got to find the, let's see. We're looking for
Starlight.
Bavlorna Blightstraw, or Brightslaw if you're playing the Japanese version.
Hold on. I need just a moment.
This isn't the Suikoden in-game Brickroad.
Okay. I've recovered. Anyway, so this map over here. So let me go ahead and just...
Recover from right now.
This is the map that weirded Razanir out because he's not used to seeing the solid black from the stream.
I actually was going to ask, did it load?
It did.
And then I was like, wait, no, okay, it's fine.
So this was going to be a combat map in case you guys decided you wanted to fight the bandits.
We did decide that. Just Turvum scared them off.
Well, if you had failed the thing, then we would roll initiative. But you passed, and they were like, "Nope, we don't want none of this." So after about 30 minutes,
them.
After about 30 minutes of wandering through the swamps, you guys come across this tower that you could see the top of from the Queensway. It's slightly at an angle, and oh god, I don't like what they did with the. There we go. Hanging off the side of the tower, you see a crashed balloon.
Sorry, did that come through?
I hear a puppo. So a crumbling stone tower rises out of the swamp, leaning at such an angle that it threatens to just keel over. Black brambles surround the base of the tower and cling to its lower half, giving the sense that the only thing keeping it up is the brambles themselves. Hanging from the crenellations on the lower side of the tower's peak is a large woven basket at the end of a tangle of ropes and tattered fabric. The basket dangles 30 feet above the surface of the swamp. The tower itself is about 50 feet tall. It's about 20 foot in diameter. There's an open door at the bottom that you can see. You guys are currently, I don't know, probably 30 or 40 feet away from the actual tower itself.
And it doesn't not look architecturally sound?
We'll say it looks kind of like it is here. It's leaning heavily to the side. Presumably maybe because the ground is too soft for the foundation and just over time it is thing. But it is currently, it looks like it's being held up by the brambles themselves.
I asked Turvum if this thing is going to fall over if we go inside of it.
Well, I can't guarantee that, but if it stayed up this long and it's got that heavy balloon hanging on the side of it, and it didn't tumble over, then we're probably okay.
I mean, I would be okay, I assume. I weigh 35 pounds.
Belshan is the biggest of us, right? Like, he's the largest.
Probably.
So, yeah, why don't you call up to the balloon and see if anybody's up there with your big bellowing human voice.
Yeah. Approach, call out. Hello? Everyone okay up there?
You hear a shh. You just hear a shh. Shh.
Coming from the balloon?
Yeah. Give me a perception check or investigation check. I'll let either one. If one is better than the other.
I'm trained in perception, so
Who? Everybody?
Yeah, everybody.
I got a 15.
15? Okay.
Ooh, 23. Investigation.
A 15.
19 on perception.
Okay, all of you pass. Congratulations. So like
Yay.
as like Belshan goes to like call out, you like he gets about halfway through what he's saying before like you just hear shh 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 shh, and then you look up and you see attached to the like hanging from the side of the basket is a small cage, and inside the cage is a fairy dragon. And he starts to he motions you all to come closer. Do you do so?
I mean, the closest we can get is
Are we
standing
able-
under the dilapidated balloon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, correct. And that is close enough for him to kind of whisper yell, I guess.
Yeah, I guess
but
we'll get
Yeah,
closer.
Leonardo will.
anyway, he goes, I'm in a bit of a bind, as you can observe. I, Sir Tollivar, one of the Summer Queen's loyal servants, ask that you free me. You see, I was in the midst of a daring escape from the vile Bavlorna Blightstraw when our balloon was set upon by an ill wind and sent us plummeting to the current unfortunate location. My pilot, and he looks very sad at this, the Honorable Wigglewog, did not survive. I've been trapped up here for a short while now. Help me. I must tell my queen of the fall of Prismere.
Can't you fly?
He's in a cage.
Oh, okay. I thought you were describing the basket of the balloon.
No. He's in a cage attached to the side of a bat. Like he's in a bird cage.
Got it.
Like he's a normal sized fairy dragon. So he's like the size of a cat. So picture this, all of this situation right here
Got it.
on the size of a cat
Right. Yeah. Fairy dragon.
in a bird cage.
Understood. Mustache.
Mustache, rapier, gauntlets. He goes, and he says, 2 serpents are asleep in the brambles just outside the tower door. If you awaken them, they might put the squeeze on you, or worse, devour me. He goes, so please be careful as you, if you do attempt to help me. And
How considerate of us.
Raz, your patron is actually the Summer Queen, isn't it?
It's Titania, yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. My only ranged
Well,
weapon
yeah.
is a sling. Can I dislodge this cage from the balloon with my sling?
You could try.
Does anybody else have a better option than that?
I have a javelin, but I'm afraid that I would skewer the dragon in the cage if I missed.
I
Yeah,
was
I
gonna just sneak up there. I'm small.
But you want to sneak up the tower?
Yeah, I'm light enough. I probably won't topple it over. And if I do, we'll get the dragon down. It'll be fine.
Can you climb up the opposite side? Because the tower is leaning at a pretty severe angle. Can you just climb up the opposite side from the balloon?
It's at like a 30-degree angle. It would be an athletics check, but you could. But you also can just the front door is open.
Right. But
I was assuming that we could go in.
Yeah,
and then
you
get to
can go in.
the
he
top.
said that there were guardsmen in the tower sleeping.
No, he said there was two giant snakes asleep outside the door of the tower.
Oh, giant
Not
snakes.
guards.
Okay.
Yes, 2 serpents are asleep in the brambles.
Well, I'm not going to be quiet, so
No,
Yeah.
I would fail a stealth check easily, so
I might pass.
I'm willing to take one shot at the cage with my sling and see if I can knock it loose and make it fall. But somebody's got to be down here ready to catch it.
That's not me. That's not Leonardo.
I'll do it.
I have a -1 to stealth at disadvantage, homie. I don't know what you're asking me.
Oh no, if we go into this tower, we're
No,
gonna
I
be
know.
fighting those snakes. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they are animals. They're just animals.
that doesn't mean it's polite to wake them up, Treble. It's more polite to fire a sling bullet at this cage.
Oh, I have a question. Did we rest at the start of this?
Yeah, you can give yourselves the benefits of we'll say a long rest, because you spent several hours partaking of the
Okay.
the Witchlight Carnival, and it's just easier to have everybody be fresh at the start of this.
Okay, I have 2 spell slots then instead of 1.
Hang on. Let's not be dumb about this. Let's see if these things work the way the fairgoer said they did. And I pull out one of my packets of pixie dust,
Okay.
and I sprinkle it upon myself.
Oh god, I forgot all about those. Yeah, we've got all
Yeah,
kinds of
I
fun
also
stuff.
forgot about that.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
that
you
easily solves the problem.
and you have a fly speed of 30 feet for a minute, I think.
Yep. And I fly my way up there, and I would like to examine the cage.
So the cage is just it's like a gilded bird cage, more or less. And it is inside the basket. You see the corpse of a frog person wearing kind of conquistador armor,
Aw.
and he looks like he might have broken his neck in the crash. But if you, there's nothing like holding the cage in place. You can easily grab it and then pull it down with you.
I
yes,
tell
I
him
would
not
like
to
do
open the
that.
cage. Just bring it down.
Yeah, I will do that.
Okay.
Why would he be in the cage in the first place? Leonardo whispers to Mrs. Fitzbiggin.
The only reason to put a speaking thing in a cage is if they're a criminal.
Leonardo considers this for a second and decides not to speak further.
He literally told you why he was in the cage.
I
He
didn't
was
get
a
that.
prisoner of one of the hags.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, he told us that, but what
Why
if he
wouldn't
was
his
lying?
pilot let him out?
I don't know.
There's more to the story, and we shouldn't let him free until we know the whole story.
And he anyway. Okay. So you get Sir Talivar down to the floor, and he sketches you like a very courtly bow, and he again introduces himself as a knight errant of the Sealy Courts and a loyal vassal of the Summer Queen. He strikes you as having a very upbeat demeanor and very, very strict so far on noble etiquette and courtesies. After introducing yourself, he is waiting for, like, he kind of gestures for you to introduce yourselves to him.
Do so, but I think I'll let Leonardo do most of the talking here.
All right. Leonardo will introduce himself as Leonardo Rosewillow, servant to the arts and a follower of Titania.
He goes, this, fellow vassal of
That
the
was the
Summer
word.
Queen.
That was the word I was looking for. Thank you.
He gets excited, and he immediately says, he goes, fate must be kind to me today to have a brother in arms find me after our disastrous escape from the lair of the vile hag Bavlorna Blightstraw.
So Leonardo is going to fiddle with the lock on the cage a little bit, like he's trying to figure out like some way to pick it, although he doesn't have the tools. And he's going to make small talk while he does that and say, "So why are you still in the cage?"
And he
After
shakes
your
his head. As soon as you start to like go to like mess with the lock, he shakes his head and says, "Alas, it is a magic lock. you are not going to be able to open it unless you can do so magically or have the key.
I used detect magic. Is it actually magicked?
It is a magic lock. The lock has a strong aura of abjuration magic around the birdcage and the lock itself. He says, unfortunately, the lock resists picking. And he looks up sadly at the balloon. Says, as my companions tried to free me, we discovered this fact.
And where did you say the key was?
And he says, and he thinks for a minute. He says, well, Bavlorna probably has the key, but this is also Prismere. And every key in Prismere ends up in the hands of... ends up on Telemany Hill before too long.
We're kind of new here. Can you describe this place?
And he tells you that Telemany Hill is a hill that moves across Prismere. He doesn't know the current location of it, but there is a goblin that lives there who travels across. Who used to travel across Prismere, but now is unfortunately only she's isolated to Hither. Her name is Jingle Jangle, and she has a thing for keys, is how he puts it. And you get the sense that he is being delicate when he says this.
Well, I suppose we'll just have to bring you and your bindings with us.
Okay. Oh, one additional thing that I forgot to mention yesterday, because Raz rolled a 20-something on the his history check on Zabilna. You guys are also aware of the fact that just so you have some more information about the NPC. Zabilna is basically, she is a fairy godmother character type figure to children. She loves children. She protects them. She goes out into the world and she helps them when they're in bad situations. She will often bring children to Prismere to play and then take them home. She is she takes children out of bad situations and brings them to Prismere, like if they're being abused. She is less forgiving to adults and anybody that she has deemed who have betrayed her, where she will do things, very cruel. As Brickroad might know, because they do briefly mention Zabilna in the Ravenloft book. But
we played the old White Wolf Changeling game. We know how this goes.
Yeah. But
is that some crazy bizarro version of Zabilna?
It's
the later Sabrina the Teenage Witch version. It's all dark and edgy.
Dark and edgy. So, are you guys... Sir Talvar is asking you to take him to Telemany Hill to see if Jingle Jangle has obtained the key to his birdcage.
Oh, Leonardo will take him. I assume that the cage is probably not so big that he can't carry it.
No, it is... Sir Talavar is the size of a cat.
It's like a cat carrier.
Well, realize that Leonardo is a small halfling.
Right, I understand this, but
a large cat could fill his arms.
This would be it would be a handful for you, but it's not heavy.
I mean,
Sir Talavar.
Turvum's going to carry it, right? He's the strongest.
Sir Talavar has no opinion on who carries him. He is thankful to all of you for getting him out of the balloon and not letting him be devoured by the serpents.
Well, and I'll ask, after we find the hill and this key goblin and open the cage, after that, we're going to have to travel to... We don't know where Bavlorna is in Hither, do we?
He goes,
Maybe.
if you guys are saying this out loud, Sir
yeah.
Talavar says, I can direct you to that. And he starts, as you guys are traveling to Telemany Hill, Sir Talavar bestows upon you the following information. Bavlorna Blightstraw lives in a spooky cottage on stilts at the heart of Downfall, a bullywug settlement. That's the frog people. The bullywugs of Downfall are quite courteous and welcoming, provided one does not offend them. But they were, last he saw, fleeing Bavlorna's wrath due to the escape.
His escape.
Yes, his escape. Basically, he briefly mentions that his companions might have started a small fire to cover their escape. And the bullywugs, while, like you said, courteous and welcoming, do live in fear of Bavlorna. He also tells you that Bavlorna has the ability to conjure minions that look like tiny versions of herself. And that she has 2 sisters whom she loathes. Together, the 3 hags form the Hourglass Coven. This is information you already know.
Mm-hmm.
Using an artifact called Igwilv's Cauldron, the Coven has frozen time in Zybilna's palace, trapping the Archfey and all of her guests inside. That is new information. And he once again reiterates that Jingle Jangle probably has the key to the birdcage.
Well, what has he and his friend done to solve this Zybilna problem?
Solve the Zybilna problem. He mentions that he hasn't been here very long. He came and had just started his investigation. He was captured on his way. Like, he went to investigate the palace, and then was on his way back out to report his findings to his queen, and then he was captured on his way out. Basically, Titania hadn't heard from Zybilna in a while. She said, "Hey, Sir Talavar, why don't you go check out what that bee is doing? I'm starting to get a little worried." And he went to check on her, found out she was frozen in time by an artifact called Igwilv's Cauldron, and he got captured by Bavlorna on his way back out.
Fair enough. All right, I'm convinced.
Sir Talavar explains to you all that he must be free so that he can return to his queen and report the news that Zybilna has been overthrown by the Hourglass Coven.
Leonardo offers his aid.
Okay. And he bows to Sir Leonardo. He goes, "Has anybody told you of the rules of Prismere?"
I'm not sure, actually.
Brigandry is not outlawed here.
He goes,
but further than that, very little.
He grimaces a little at that. He goes, "It technically is, but there are extenuating circumstances." And he explains to you that Prismere, like many Fey realms, has set of rules that the ruler has set down, and that breaking those rules will generally lead to swift punishment from whoever's in charge. However, currently the hags are in charge, but a great many of the residents of Prismere still follow the rules because they're kind of hazy on whether or not punishment can rain down from above or not. But he explains to you that this place has 3 rules. And this place is all of Prismere. Rule 1, the rule of hospitality. When a friend, an enemy, or a stranger enters your home, you are expected to be gracious and accommodating to them until such a time as they prove by their words or actions undeserving of such hospitality. So again, that is the rule of hospitality. Don't start none, there won't be none. The rule of ownership. You must not steal from a friend, an enemy, or a stranger. To take something that doesn't belong to you without the rightful owner's permission is a crime and an unforgivable breach of etiquette. And finally, the rule of reciprocity. When a friend, an enemy, or a stranger offers you a gift, you are obliged to accept it and then offer something of comparable value be it a gift or a service in return. Such reciprocation need not happen immediately, though. When Zybilna ruled Prismere, Sir Talavar starts, few of her subjects dared to violate her rules. Those who did often disappeared without a trace. And now, with the Hourglass Coven in charge, the rules remain in force, though the circumstances on which they are enforced is a bit different. The hags believe rather strongly that everything in they believe really rather strongly in hospitality and reciprocity, but they have a very self-centered view of ownership. Each of the hags claim ownership of everything in their realm. So, an example to you guys, Bavlorna Blightstraw considers herself the owner of Hither and everything in Hither.
So did we just steal her fairy dragon?
Basically,
oh, okay.
in her mind. But because of that, like those, like if you're a bandit, for example, working for Bavlorna Blightstraw, you're not stealing, you're collecting her property back. And that is how they. Yes, you're collecting something that already belongs to your employer, and you're taking it back to her. He goes. Also, he just admits that the hags are far less inclined to just punish those who break the rules than Zybilna was, who was incredibly swift, malicious, and effective at doing so. And oftentimes, it's currently not even like clear to the other residents when a rule has been broken. And again, he talks about the brigands themselves, so they're able to take what they want from other folk without paying for it, and nothing bad seems to happen to them as a result. But that fact alone is often not enough to encourage rule breaking with many of the other residents. For all they know, again, the brigands are acting in the hag's self-interest and could be exempt.
Well, we know better, and I suppose that must just fall upon us.
Yes. He does also mention that if Zybilna returns to power, strict enforcement of these rules would probably resume in a heartbeat. And the brigands would be wise to take their propensity for malfeasance elsewhere. He goes, after a few minutes to an hour, I don't know, time is a little wonky in the Feywild. You guys find yourself in Telemany Hill. And you weren't even really like wandering in like a set direction. Like you just kind of find yourself there. And Telemany Hill, you come across it, and it is literally a hill on feet. You can see the little feet.
Oh,
Yeah,
I see the little feet.
Yeah.
The feet are definitely there.
Sir Talavar explains to you that Telemany Hill is actually an ancient Fey entity. It's a sentient hill that travels through the Feywild, and can go to the material plane at times. The Wandering Hill will interact with others by way of these ancient willow trees that grow on its slopes. He cautions you to be polite and put your best foot forward.
How does one ask a hill if they can step upon it?
The hill, like as you approach the hill actually like gently lowers itself down to where you can walk, and there's a path, and it turns itself. It's a very surreal experience. The hill stops, turns towards you where this little footpath is facing you, and then gently lowers itself down.
Do we still ask if we can walk on it?
And
Leonardo just says, "Oh, how considerate," and takes a step.
And
thank you.
Sir Talavar informs you that you have been invited onto Telemany Hill.
I see. Thank you.
Is it appropriate to like pat the hill with your feet or maybe your hand? Like, good hill.
If you want to, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. It's a good hill. Who's the best hill?
Who's the best hill? Here's your
giant-
treat.
The trees start wagging. Anyway,
achievement unlocked. Pet the hill.
Yeah. Can you pet the hill? You can pet the hill in Wild Beyond the Witchlight.
Telemy Hill is skirted in mist, and when you pass through the mist and start to climb on the hill, you are greeted by the scent of sweet-smelling fruit. Damp, downy, silvery green moss blankets a gentle upward slope before giving way to a craggy ridge that marks the top of the hill. Dozens of enormous willow trees dot the hillside, swaying as though in a breeze despite the absence of one. As you start climbing the narrow game trail that the hill has like positioned to be in front of you, the hills on the side of the tree start speaking to you in like low rumbling voices, and these are like very beautiful tall willow trees. And 4 willow trees kind of approach you, and they stop 10 feet apart.
Do they also have delightful curled feet?
No, they're just a normal awakened trees. So they're walking on their roots.
I feel like you can't say the phrase "normal awakened tree."
I feel like you can't.
You
get
can
no say.
hear.
I feel like you don't get a say in what I say.
How many awakened trees have I met that I can classify them as
Regret,
normal?
Treble
You've
kind of has a
met-
point there.
You have met 4 currently.
Oh, I guess you're right.
The trees, and again, they speak in low rumbling voices. One of the trees breaks away from the packs, gives a bow. Tree pun. Anyway,
Oh,
No.
you beat me to it.
Boo.
and asks you how long you plan to stay.
We've got 5 more weeks of this.
Oh boy, the puns, man. Listen, this.
Is it as punny as the crypt in Castle Ravenloft?
Listen to me. I have bypassed so many puns so far because we do not have time for them.
There's no time for puns.
But so anyway, this tree has asked you how long you plan on staying, and it is awaiting an answer.
I mean, only long enough to meet Jingle Jangle,
Jingle
the
Jangle,
goblin
yeah.
key holder.
So at the mention of Jingle Jangle, the tree kind of stands up and says, "Oh, you're here to see Jingle Jangle. Jingle Jangle is a friend of Telemany Hill. She collects keys, and that's basically all she talks about, but she is very pleasant company. As she walks around with her coat covered in keys that jingles and jangles as she walks.
Oh, that's why she's called that.
Yeah. And then the tree, I doesn't really have a gender, but the tree like uses its willow leaves to kind of gesture towards up the hill. There is it mentions there's a cave at the top where Jingle Jangle is currently residing, and it will lead you there. But that warns you that 3 days ago, while rooting through the forest for truffles, she was attacked and robbed by brigands. She hasn't left her hilltop's den since then, and she must be pretty hungry, so he doesn't know how well of a host she is going to be.
I mean, did these brigands get onto the hill?
No, she was in the. He tells that she was in the swamp over by on the way to Downfall.
Okay.
She was digging for truffles, which is her favorite food.
Has she ever been known to part with any of the keys in her collection?
Yes, she will. She has been known to give them as gifts.
Leonardo interjects and says, "Well, we wouldn't actually need to keep the key. She could have it back after we've unlocked the padlock."
Oh, that's true.
And she is more than willing to, like, if one of her keys unlocks a door or a cage or a window or a lock or anything, she is definitely willing to lend the use of her key.
I thought the tree was just going to name things that can be locked for another hour or so.
Well, windows, doors, Cars don't exist. We can't put that on there. Trunks, carriages.
Mrs.
Warlocks.
Fitzbiggins' heart.
The key to Miss Fitzbiggins' heart.
It's good penmanship.
Anyway, after a few minutes, you are escorted up the hill by these perfectly normal awakened willow trees.
Perfectly normal. Got it.
And you stand in front of a small cave shaped like a keyhole.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can see it at the top there, but it is in fact shaped like a keyhole.
It is, yes.
Okay.
For calling attention to that, though, Treble. I might have missed that.
So do you enter Jingle Jangle's den?
Well, we haven't been invited in.
Yeah.
The tree.
Door to lock, though.
The tree will bow once again at that and says, and then congratulates you on being so polite. And it will wrap, like it curls up its like willow branches into like a ball and then wraps on the side of the cave entrance and then calls in to Jingle Jangle and lets her know that she has visitors. You hear a voice come back in and basically go, "Oh, dearie me, dearie my, yes, please send them in."
I want to be honest. At first, Mrs. Fitzbiggin was not keen on this whole Feywild malarkey, but she does appreciate how polite everything is here.
More so than the carnival, right?
Listen,
Right.
I was actually afraid that Mrs. Fitzbiggins was going to be the biggest cause of trouble, but in all honesty, if Mrs. Fitzbiggins is like number one priority is politeness and like etiquette and things like that, she's probably going to be the one to get you in the least amount of trouble.
Her entire reason for existence is to teach people manners.
So as you guys enter the Jingle Jangle's den, worn stone steps lead down into what feels like a cellar. It's chilly in here, and you detect a subtle scent of iron. From a distant spot within the chamber, sputtering candles illuminate a multitude of keys dangling from strings that crisscross the walls. Hundreds of other keys lie just strewn about in the dirt floor. As you take in the scene, you hear the sound of keys jingling as a goblin emerges from the dimness. She wears a coat lined with metal keys and carries a flail that has padlocks for heads. She manages a faint smile and says, "How might Jingle Jangle unlock a bit of happiness in your lives today?"
No, she
by the way-
doesn't. Come on.
She does say that. That is a thing. My favorite thing about Jingle Jangle's stat block is let me say, Jingle Jangle refers to herself in the third person. That is noted in her stat block. Replace her normal weapon attacks with the following attack options: Flail of Locks, melee weapon, +5 to hit, 3d4 bludgeoning damage. So, she hits you with that Flail of Locks, it's gonna hurt.
That
It
might
says-
be the
but-
most bizarre question anybody has ever asked Mrs. Fitzbiggin in her mortal life.
If no one speaks up,
Well, at the very we have a
Sorry, I was typing.
we have a somewhat distressed fairy dragon locked in the cage, and we were hoping you would have the key. And I point to Sir Talavar.
Leonardo holds up the cage and says, "Ah, yes. This seems to be magicked, and perhaps you could assist us."
Jingle Jangle looks at the cage and then she starts like rifling through her coat looking for a key, and she says Jingle Jangle has just the thing. And then she looks up you sheepishly and says, this might take Jingle Jangle a moment. After about 10 minutes of like trying keys, Jingle Jangle pulls up a silver key that unlocks Sir Talavar's birdcage.
Hey.
Better better you should have it than those long-eared brigands. First they stole Jingle Jangle's truffles. Next they want Jingle Jangle's keys. Someone ought to give them a good shaking down so they know what it feels like.
Well, wouldn't that be against the rules currently?
Well, not if we're doing a service to it, because they did a service for us in doing our friend Sir Talavar.
Right, this is where the Fey rules will start to get complicated.
Rules nested inside of rules.
Yep. So, does anybody want to, like, Jingle Jangle, like, offers you some tea, and, like, as, like, Sir Talavar, like, gets out of the cage and starts to whatever, and, like, over the next few minutes, like, Jingle Jangle actually offers to, like, tell you a story if you want to hear it.
Stories are always nice to hear. if
Sure.
nothing else.
Leonardo's immediate concern, though, is that they have been given a gift in the sense of they got this key, and he's trying to figure out what they can give her in return as thanks.
Roll me a... I don't know.
He's also trying to just not think too hard about it because maybe they'll forget.
Roll me a wisdom check since you're not thinking too hard about it. I was gonna give you the choice of rolling either wisdom or...
Oh, 17.
So you recall that you do not have to give the rule of reciprocity says that you can offer a physical gift or a service, and that you happen to know that Jingle Jangle currently has a gripe with some brigands. Maybe you could offer to do something about that.
Well, I guess it's more like I'm trying to decide if Leonardo wants to even offer those things. These rules feel silly and nebulous to him.
We're also, I assume, eventually going to take care of Bavlorna, and so that could be the service to everybody.
It's a service to everybody.
We're saving the world.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, maybe not the world, but...
Mrs. Fitzbiggins, you are keenly aware that you have been given a gift,
Mhm.
and that the rule of reciprocity says that you are supposed to give something back. Just to remind everybody, you guys have been told that Jingle Jangle hasn't eaten in a couple of days.
I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah,
carrying
no,
any food. Otherwise,
I don't have any food.
You
I could-
actually, guys, several of you actually do have food.
We have candy.
You know what? We have candy.
You have
Yeah.
candy.
You had candy.
Leonardo will offer a candy. What did I
That's
write
the-
this down as?
Jingle Jangle starts to cry when you hand her the candy, and
Oh
she
my
looks
God.
and she says, "Jingle Jangle was digging for truffles in the swamp when the Haregons leapt out and they beat Jingle Jangle and took her truffles, and then threw Jingle Jangle down in the mud and whacked Jingle Jangle with their wooden clubs. And Jingle Jangle has been hungry for the last few days." And she goes, "And you give Jingle Jangle sweet things?" And then she just starts to cry, and then she's blubbering as she's eating the candy.
Leonardo awkwardly comforts her, like, "Oh, they're there," and then he looks at the rest of the party with kind of like a "Gah" face.
Jingle Jangle
Oh.
immediately stops crying as soon as she finishes the it's a unicorn horn full of candy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she looks at you and she goes, "Jingle Jangle wants to help. Let me," and then she gives you some more information. She tells you that Agdon Longscarf is the leader of the Haregon Brigands. You will know him by the bright blue scarf that he wears, and how he moves as fast as lightning. You will probably encounter him in the Brigands Tollway, which is along the path to downfall.
I mean, we've already had a run-in with this creep.
No, you had a run in with one of his, with the bandits in his group, but not Agdon himself.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, we sent them running. All we had to do was, have Turvum tap his axe against the bridge.
Which I just realized that I may have added too much of a modifier to my roll on that.
Don't worry about it.
I'm sure it's fine.
Brigands, she tells you that to be careful in Brigand's Tollway because it's a series of wooden catwalks that circular a tree, but the catwalks themselves are very poorly maintained in recent years, and moving too quickly across them can leave you face first in the mud. The brigands themselves camp atop the stump in the middle. You can see it right there, because it gives them the advantage of high ground to see people going across the tollway. And she also tells you that while you're in Downfall, if you plan on going to one of the other areas of Prismere, the best guide available is Clapperclaw.
Clapperclaw?
Clapperclaw. She tells you that in Downfall somewhere, there is a pincher-clawed scarecrow named Clapperclaw. He knows the way to the neighboring realm of Hither, which is ruled by a hag named Granny Nightshade. And then you have some very... What is the word I'm looking for here? The tea is very weak, but she gives you... she doesn't have much. Basically, all Jingle Jangle has is an empty truffle bag and a lot of keys. But does anybody press Jingle Jangle for any more information? She's willing to talk about lots of things.
I'm willing to listen about
We
lots of things, but
we actually haven't mentioned that we're at our quest to anybody.
yeah, we did to the fairy dragon.
Sir Talavar?
Yeah, he knows that we're here to.
He knows. We didn't actually tell him that we were after Bavlorna.
Oh,
Well, you guys are not necessarily after Bavlorna. Well, Mrs. Fitzbiggins might be. She's like, this place is filthy. What has this hag done?
I am
Well, I'm after
specifically
Bavlorna
after
because
Bavlorna.
I'm specifically after Bavlorna because Bavlorna is what's keeping me known as Sir Scribbles.
Yeah, she has my missing sense of direction.
Right. So, do you guys mention to her that you're going after Bavlorna?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. Jingle Jangle bids you to be very careful when dealing with hags. And she tells you a story of how Jingle Jangle used to be she wasn't always Jingle Jangle. Jingle Jangle had she sought out by Bavlorna Blightstraw's help many years ago in order to undo a terrible curse. Wherever Jingle Jangle went, she felt the tormenting fear of being caught on the wrong side of a locked door. When she appealed to Bavlorna for help with this, the hag removed the goblin's ability to perceive that fear and replaced it with an insatiable and overwhelming need to collect keys. So great is this obsession that Jingle Jangle has lost pretty much her own sense of self, and now kind of refers to herself only in the third. That's why she refers to herself in the third person.
This sounds suspiciously like that centaur lady's story. Like she made a bad deal with a hag.
Right. This is
Yeah.
this is a cautionary tale of be very careful what deals you make with hags.
I'm not intending to make any kind of deal with her. I'm going to demand my property back, and if she doesn't give it to me, I'm going to wrap her knuckles.
Can you wrap the knuckles of somebody who's probably older than you? Is that proper?
I can, yeah, of course.
You're never too old for manners.
You're never
Right.
too old to learn something new.
All right.
See, I've learned that from Mrs. Figgles. Or Fitzbiggle.
This fits.
Oh no.
Am I sure that that's not my hag curse? Like nobody can pronounce my name correctly.
This is Fitzbiggins.
I have too many proper nouns on this piece of paper.
After pleasant, I guess, pleasant enough interaction with Jingle Jangle. You guys decide to leave Tillamy Hill, and on your way out, because you have lifted Jingle Jangle's spirits, Tillamy Hill is delighted. The perfectly normal awakened willow trees are dancing around the characters, like around the party as you are walking back down the game trail. Right when you get to the end, one of the trees stops you and hands you a key that it tells you that Jingle Jangle dropped this in the dirt. And the tree mysteriously claims that this key in particular will be useful to you later on.